Hello, I can hear the sound of cheesy music in the background, so it must be time for musical theatre. Normally something we do on Friday, but I'm going to do this a lesson for this every Thursday, and once you've hopefully got the rest of the week's work done. So this week is relatively low stress, I hope. I'm going to concentrate on describing melody. We've got a few short extracts to listen to, and this one I really am going to run pretty much like a lesson with some listenings on the video, and then a little bit of chat from me talking about what you might have been listening for, just to sort of help you with those listening skills. So you're going to need a worksheet, which is worksheet 48. It's in the back of, or close to the back of, the second musical theatre workbook, but don't worry if you haven't got that at home. The worksheet is on Moodle as well, so you can print it off, and you will really need it in front of you in order to take part in this lesson properly. So make sure you've got that at the ready, and sit back and enjoy listening to the delights of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Rodgers and Hammerstein and Schoenberg as well. We're talking about melody today and how to describe it. So, as with all description in the musical theatre listening questions, we want to be as specific as possible and as detailed as possible, because it's those detailed descriptions of things we can definitely hear that get us marks much more than vague descriptions of more general things. So, as it says on the worksheet, we need to start with specifics. So intervals that happen often in the melody, particular intervals that stand out. So that's normally larger intervals. You can talk about melodic figures and their shapes. So this melody starts with 2 or 3 repeated notes and then a leap down, that sort of thing. So that's just sort of stringing intervals together, I guess. And then you can talk about repetitions. So is one line the same or very similar to another? And then that moves on to devices and techniques. So if they're similar, it may be that they're sequenced. We can talk about styles of writing and singing. So parlando, where it sounds like the singer's putting some speaking quality in their voice. Recitative, where it's written in a speech-like style. And techniques like portamento, where the singer slides between notes. And then, of course, we can always resort to that old favourite. I'm talking about syllabic writing, where it's one note per syllable, or melismatic, where it's several notes per syllable. And then we can move on to more general things, the range of the melody, the phrasing perhaps, whether it's diatonic or chromatic, the types of scale used if that's relevant. But I want to mostly concentrate on those specific things. We're starting with a number from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera, All I Ask of You. Nice and cheesy, some really distinctive melodic content. So I want to start off with a relatively simple task, which is to look at the each of the 5 lines, listen to it carefully through, and just describe the intervals that you hear. So if you have ascending stepwise motion, you can talk about that, or is there a particularly distinctive rising or falling leap? You can talk about it if you can with the exact interval, but it's useful even without that if you can say there's a large leap here and then it continues down by step or whatever. So that's what I want you to do first. I'm going to play it to you once while you have a think about that. So before I play it again, just want to give you a quick pointers to the sort of thing I'm looking for. So if you think about the last line, line 5 of the extract, which goes, "That's all I ask of you." If I was describing the melody of that, I'd say it has this arc shape. Obviously, it goes up and down, and the top note is I, and it's all stepwise except for it leaps up to that I and then back down again. So that's a really sort of precise description of it. We could even say it was stepwise and then it leaps a third up to I and then a third back down and then it carries on down. So whatever level of detail you're confident in giving, that's what you need to offer. So anything at the least saying it's an arch, it goes up and down, and at best saying exactly what intervals that involves, and there's several stages in between those two extremes. So that's the sort of thing I wanted to talk about. You might want to concentrate particularly on the first and second line. There's plenty to say about them. So I'm going to play it to you twice more in order for you to do that. Here it is for the second time, and then there'll be a short pause, and then I'll talk about the answers. So in the first two lines, these are the sorts of things that you should be saying about the melody. It starts with the same note repeated 3 times. That's always something really simple to say, but it's really important if you're describing this melody to someone. The fact that it goes "say you love" on the same note, that's obviously really important. And then even more important, perhaps, is the very big leap between love and me. So just saying that there's 3 repeated notes and then a large leap down is a really good start. If you can identify the interval, that's even better. Say you love me is actually a leap of a ninth, quite an unusually large interval for vocal writing. And then it goes up a little bit more. And then on moment, there's another big leap down, a leap of a seventh. So as I was saying earlier, you need to give a level of detail that you're confident about. So saying it starts on the same note 3 times, and then later on in the phrase there's 2 large leaps on love me and moments, that's really good, and then adding more detail saying what the actual intervals are. Then turn my head with talk of summertime. You could talk about the shape of that. Turn my head with talk of summertime. So it goes down and then up with a series of small leaps. And then you could pick out on a detail that's quite easy to hear that summertime starts on one note and it goes down a third and then back up again. So it's just picking out those details that you can hear and really showing that you're listening in detail to what's going on. So I'm going to give you one more listening now. And with that listening, I want you to talk about some of the more general things. So if you could think about repetitions within the music, you could talk about any devices that you can hear. You can talk about whether it's syllabic or melismatic. And then you can talk about the even more general things, range, phrasing, is it diatonic or chromatic, that sort of thing. Okay, let's pick out some of the more obvious things that you might say more generally. So one really good thing, which isn't actually too general, is just talking about repetitions. That's quite a specific thing. So line 3 is the same as line 1. That sort of relatively straightforward observation is something that students often miss out in the panic of exams. If you're just being asked to describe the melody, talking about where it repeats itself is a really good thing to say. There's not an awful lot to say about devices. There's not any obvious sequences or anything like that. But there are some things that we can say on a more general level. So if you're being asked to describe a melody, I think talking about repetitions, intervals, melodic figures, and devices are absolutely the best thing to talk about. If you're being asked to describe the melodic writing, or you're being asked to describe the writing for voices, then that's when the more general things come into play. So you can talk about whether the writing is syllabic or melismatic, so it is all syllabic. There are no places where you have more than one note per syllable. And then on to the really general stuff, range, but it's quite a big range from the top note at the beginning to really quite a low note on true on line 4, takes it it's about an octave and a fourth, a bit more than that, an octave and a fifth actually, so that's quite a big range. It's worth saying that. The phrasing is quite regular. This is really general stuff now, and for a 1 or 2 mark question just about melody is not the sort of thing you should be talking about. But if you're just talking about the melody more generally, this might be more relevant. And then it's pretty much all diatonic. So those are all the sort of more general things. But you need to concentrate on describing the actual melody and its details when you're being asked to describe a melody or comment on the melody or that sort of thing. It's only when you're being asked a more general question or you're doing comparison, these more general things become more relevant.